Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm Christian Hodel, and I'm here to introduce this filmic conversation between two truly amazing actors and filmmakers, Vanessa Kirby and Amy Adams. Vanessa plays the lead role of Martha in the film Pieces of a Woman, directed by Kornél Mundruczó and written by Kata Wéber. We are so lucky to have the amazing Amy Adams here. Thank you so much for doing this, Amy.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm thrilled.
It's great. Hopefully most of you watching tonight have seen the film already. If you haven't had a chance, it's on Netflix right now. I urge you to see it. It's absolutely fantastic. It's an unforgettable experience. I think that's it. This is going to be about 35 minutes. Enjoy the conversation. Thank you so much for being here. Over to you guys.
Great. Hi. I'm so thrilled. Should we get started? Are we pausing? Well, I guess I'll get started. How are you doing?
I'm good, actually. I'm really good, and I'm so glad it's you. I was thinking this morning actually about Junebug and how influential that was on me, and how weirdly related it is.
No, I'm definitely I want to get into some of that, because I've portrayed some characters dealing with similar issues, and it's quite powerful. And I really want you to share your experience of that on this film, because it really is such a moving and emotional piece. And the way, congratulations first off, because you're absolutely fantastic, and the movie is so wonderful. So congratulations on that to begin.
Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome. So I guess we'll just dive right in with sort of how when you're looking at material, and when somebody is coming to you with a script, what is it about any given material that sort of sparks you and sort of drives you towards that motivation to sort of give so much of yourself?
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? I was thinking about this earlier. It definitely has changed since this film. Mm-hmm. Because there's a few times in life, I'm sure you must know this better than anyone, where you read something and it just really hits you, and you sort of know that you have to do it. I've only had that maybe twice before. One was on The Crown, and bizarrely I just thought, oh my God, I think I have sort of am Margaret, and it was really weird and also quite embarrassing to admit, even to my agent, to think like that. But you know, when something just because you go, who am I to even say that? And then you get in the room and they're like, no, you're not, sorry. But I had the same with this. I think, I don't know really. I think it's something that you must recognize or feel some kind of urgency to be a part of telling, you know, however big or small your part is. And with this, definitely, I read it and I just thought, oh my God, I know I have to somehow persuade them to let me do it.
I love that. And were you a part of the development in this process, or was this something that you read and sort of signed on? I know you guys did a lot of work together and worked together through rehearsals on a lot of this.
Yeah, it was a very collaborative, from every minute of it, really. I remember saying to you recently, it was, sometimes it'd be 3 a.m. the night before the scene, you know, just writing in a conference room and trying to work out is this really how you would articulate this, you know, because it was, I guess because it was dealing with something so intensely difficult that inevitably it moved and shifted all the time. But in the lead up, mainly it just involved I was almost so afraid of it that I knew I had to do so much, every leave no stone unturned kind of thing, you know, and talking to tons of people and I'm trying to understand labor.
Yeah, I'm intentionally not talking about the scene that I'm probably going to end up talking about for the rest of the conversation, which is an incredible feat. But not only are you so wonderful in that particular moment, but throughout the film, as you examine grief, the way that you approached it with so much attention and so much subtlety and so much small detail. One of the things I noticed, and I'm curious if you can talk about sort of developing those details, was sort of when she first goes back to work, her nails are perfect. And as it starts to move through the script, I noticed sort of the nails sort of falling apart. I don't know, was that an intentional choice? Is that something that's really important to you, those kind of details?
Yeah, it was, because there was one mother that I spent loads of time with. Her name's Kelly. I've talked about her a lot because she was like so instrumental to like me beginning to understand like what that experience would even like come close to. And there was one thing she said, which was you sort of stop noticing what you look like that becomes like the least important thing, you know. And so like I deliberately didn't wash my hair, and I made sure that I like just left my nails to do what they did, you know. And it's almost like that the relationship you have to the external world that you've always had is suddenly completely like altered. And there was one thing in fact that helped me the most, which was she said, because I kept trying to understand, like, and I'm sure you've had this in with Junebug and everything else, like I was like, I know I have to understand how she felt, because I couldn't even all I knew I had to do was like try and feel the sensations of what that actually feels like, or try and get close to it. And that was all I had to try and represent in a way. And she said it's a bit like standing on top of like the tallest mountain, like standing right on the top of Everest, and you look down and you're up there and the world is just like carrying on underneath you, you know, and you're part of the world, but you're so sort of removed from it. And it's like buzzing around and people are going past you, and you feel like screaming, but no one can hear you. And it was sort of that. And I guess the nails and you know, how she looked and all that stuff, and like the nappies and everything else, that all sort of was a part of that, the feeling of, yeah.
Yeah, I've given birth, and when I saw those nappies drop, I was like, oh wow, to be dealing with all of the after effects and that isolation. You were so wonderful in approaching that, and so delicate and thoughtful. I could spend this whole time just complimenting you, which I might in fact do, because I'm so absolutely moved by you as an actress. And I think this goes beyond a performance and into an embodiment. And it's just in doing Junebug, I had a lot of people approach me, Junebug and Arrival, with their personal stories. Do you find that this is resonating, and it's an area that women really need to explore?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know what it was? I started, I was so nervous about getting it right, because I just thought, God, if I represent this, like, this is not a movie that usually gets financed, you know, like Junebug isn't as well. Like, it's an unusual thing. And so you know how special that is. And I thought, oh God, if I'm trying to represent this part of society that's like so rarely talked about, let alone shown on screen, I have to try and at least like have hope that women would watch it and be like, that I kind of can at least identify, or like feel a little bit less alone because of it. And so the mothers I spent time with, I guess, I was amazed firstly by the fact that the more women I spoke to, the more that it was like a whole network of women in my life, like even periphery, that kind of like more and more women started to come to me and say, actually, I've had a miscarriage, or actually I've like experienced like a really late pregnancy loss. And I thought, oh my God, but it's so interesting that it's like I heard yesterday that this new study is 54% of people have been through it or know someone that has. That's like massive. And so for a film to sort of unflinchingly, and I know it's so tough to watch, like really is, but it is, you know, to sort of go into it, I felt like it was important to kind of like be a tiny part of breaking the silence around that, really. And generally like grief and that weird sort of stretch of time that happens after you lose something and that you never expected to, and you're trying to like put your life, like the pieces of your life back together in my pieces. But yeah, and so it almost felt like, yeah, a responsibility to like try and accurately add to, you know, helping to begin conversation around it somehow. Yeah. Oh no, to answer your question, yeah, loads of women have
No,
to answer the actual question, loads of women have come. Yeah.
No, it's interesting how the film deals with, and how you and the other actors deal with, how it touches the relationships. And one of the relationships that I found, especially, I use the word triggering a lot, but it was super triggering, was the mother relationship. And well, I mean, Ellen's amazing, as are you. And what was that? You have such a chemistry, and it's so lit up between the two of you, even in the moments of silence. How was it for you? Did you guys spend a lot of time together? Did you get to hang out? I so miss hanging out with fellow actors in this time. So I'm curious to hear about that.
Yeah, it's sometimes the best bit, isn't it? When you like slowly get to know each other and you're like, oh God, we're gonna do this weird thing. And you know, I might be really bad and oh God. Yeah, so she was amazing. I mean, we needed someone who was like inherently formidable. And I think we were all a bit ever so slightly scared of her when we first met her because she's Ellen, you know. But we had sort of only 4 days rehearsal, but in one of those days she said, do you want to come for a pajama party? To which I thought, oh no, there's a part of me that's really scared of doing that. Like, will I have anything to say that would even like, she'd even want to hear? But we did, we had a pajama party and we stayed up till 3 a.m. talking and barely got any sleep. And it was amazing. I mean, like she told me like all these mad stories about her whole life. And she read me poems and she cooked me dinner. And it really helped, like the actual act of like sleeping over made me feel like it felt familial. Do you know what I mean? So it was actually like, it was so important to feel that connection, particularly because these two characters are almost so similar that they're so far apart, you know, that they haven't quite like, they're in a codependent relationship really, where they're both sort of like, you need to be this certain way so I feel okay, you know, that kind of association. So it was good to see Ellen in her pajamas, her really fancy silk pajamas. Mine were like old thermals from a job I did 10 years ago.
Of course, I love hers are silk pajamas. It's just as it should be. I love that. All right, I'm gonna sort of dive now into the scene, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
You and I spoke about this, and I said, and I mean it, that I might have read that scene and said, no, thank you. There's no possible way to do this. And I'm so impressed and I have so much admiration for the details that you put into it. And we spoke a little bit about some of the research that you did. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us, because I'm speaking of the, what is it, 24 minute, just is it handheld, I'm imagining, or?
Yeah, it was a gimbal. You know, they usually shoot like music videos and stuff on it. So the poor DOP had to like hold it without breaking. Like, you know, he had to train for it actually because it was so hard even to hold it for 4 minutes. So yeah, it was, you know, because you're carrying the weight of the camera without, and you can't shake, and you know. Yeah.
So for you, did you only do it once? Was it just one take?
No, it was okay. So we knew we had
to do more than once.
Yeah, we did. We did it 6 times. We did it 6 times. Yeah.
Oh.
You would have been incredible, Amy. I sent this to you yesterday.
No, all I'm thinking is like, did it get to a point where you climb in the tub and they're like, oh, we had a glitch, we have to go back? I mean, I would have. Anyway, I just had an imagining of what that would have been like. But
that only happened once, yeah, where there was a glitch and we had to start again. But also the whole time just thinking, oh my God, if I mess this up, like if there's one bit that goes wrong, then I'm like responsible for everyone resetting and starting again. So that bit was the scariest. Yeah.
It's so beautiful and so well done. And in prepping for that, did you guys, how many times did you choreograph it, or was it more of a free flow situation, I guess?
Yeah, it was a weird thing because you know what, it was one of those sequences where I don't think none of us knew how we were going to do it. There wasn't like any one person being like, okay, so I've got it in my mind and this is what we're going to do, you know. And I sort of felt that, and I also knew that my responsibility was to like, all I knew, I had to turn up on set knowing exactly what birth was kind of like, you know. And because I haven't given birth myself, I felt like a fraud anyway. And then I also thought, oh God, but so many women have given birth and so many men have watched women give birth. Like if there's 1 second of this that doesn't ring true or looks like, you know, actressy or me kind of like hoping to get it right, then you'd instantly be taken out the film and everyone would be like, well, that's not what it's like, you know. So what I did is I started talking to friends, and most of them said, oh, I mean, it was awful, it was kind of good, but and they didn't really remember it. So I was like, well, that's no hope at all. And so then I was like, okay, I need to watch every documentary I could possibly watch. I found everything I could, and again, like, it was so strange, like nothing represented what the whole thing was like. So I got to the end of hours of watching all the stuff, and I thought, I'm literally no better equipped to act this like with an unbroken take without the help of edits and, you know, like taking out the crap bits or the bits where I'm not like believable. And so then I got really scared, and so then I ended up writing to obstetricians, and there was one that said, look, you can come and shadow me on the labor ward. So I spent many days with the midwives in the kind of birthing center and trying to work out, like, okay, so this position, oh, not this position, okay, like this is, you know, just crawling all over the room, getting them to act it out for me when they probably should have been doing other things. And then there was this incredible afternoon where one of the midwives came back around and she said, oh, like, a woman's just come in and she's 8 centimeters dilated and she's about to start pushing, and I'm going to ask her if she'd mind you sitting in. And I said to, she's never going to want some random bloody actress coming in and sitting in the room with her. But she said yes, and so I got to watch her for 8 hours do this like most phenomenal thing that was, I mean, like, the most profound afternoon of my life for sure. Like, the whole thing, every minute of it, I didn't breathe, I didn't go to the loo, like I just sat there watching her do it. And after that I thought, okay, at the very least, like, at least I can be true to her, you know, and I can try and I saw what she did in her body and how this like animal part of her took over, and I thought, okay, that then at least I have half a chance because I can just try and like allow my body to do it rather than like my actory mind, you know. And so then when we approached the scene, we realized that we needed like help. Like Molly Parker, the amazing actress that plays midwife, you know, like she sort of was like, okay, what does this do, like where do I put, you know, obviously. And then we flew someone over that I'd found through various different avenues of research, who was like an amazing doula and was the head of lots of home birth foundations, and she flew over and she thought we had an afternoon to rehearse. So we decided, okay, we're gonna like have some jokes in the kitchen, just hang out there, and then we're gonna kind of go to the living room and just do a bit there, and whatever happens happens. And then the midwife comes in, and then we're gonna go to the bath and then the bedroom. And so we rehearsed it a little bit, just like physically, like, okay, a couple of minutes here, maybe 5 here, whatever, you know, don't spend too long here. And then on the day we did 4 takes the first day and 2 the second, and the fourth one is the one they use in the movie.
Wow. I mean, I was thinking about this and I spoke to you about it, like when you come in that morning and you know you're shooting a scene that's going to require so much of you that you're going to have to go so deep in. Is there some sort of meditation or music or focus that you get into? Do you distract yourself? I'm always curious about people's process right in the moments before, and not just the research, which you did so much of, but the moment before you're about to film. Like, what is that for you?
Well, I literally didn't sleep the night before. I kept having like crazy dreams because I just knew, like, oh God, if we get this wrong, then the movie is not going to work. The rest of the movie is so quiet and so internal and like really difficult, and all the dates that you see her in her life are like the hardest ones, you know, choosing a gravestone and trying to have sex for the first time. And I guess what I saw in the woman was someone like all the whole spectrum of human experience, you know, like the like magical qualities and like the quite grotesque and the horror parts of it and the beauty and everything that now I like. Every time I see a pregnant woman, I'm just like, oh my God, you're incredible. And so I sort of knew that we had to try and capture all of that in a 30-minute thing. Didn't sleep the morning of. It felt a bit, do you know what felt familiar about it? It felt like a play in a way. So there was quite a nice feeling of like all the props guys being anxious to make sure they had everything right, you know. And in fact, in the take, there's a mistake in it because the props guys left the phone in the wrong place, and so Sean's running around being like, "Where's the phone? Where's the phone?" He leaves frame and then comes back in because he couldn't find the phone. And if he hadn't have found the phone, he couldn't have rung the ambulance, you know. And then the whole shot would have gone to pieces. And luckily, at the very last moment, if you see that scene, he literally runs out of frame, and the DOP is like, "Oh, this isn't the plan." But
I remember that moment, and I actually loved it. I loved that moment. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
I guess because it was like a real true moment where he was like, "Oh my God, where's the phone?" And also, of course, there were like the prosthetics guys hiding in the cupboard and the real baby outside the house ready to be brought in. And so sometimes in the bedroom, like I could feel the prosthetics guys so anxious to get the right timing right, so that they ran in as the camera was outside the house and bring in the prosthetic of the crowning baby and put it on me, and me trying to ignore that they're there so I can stay in the moment, and then them rush back into the cupboard, because obviously if you saw the strange man in the bedroom, it would have ruined the whole shot. But in terms of preparation, it felt very much like a play, you know. It's that like magical quality of like the first night of a show when everyone's setting stuff, no one knows how the hell it's gonna go, everyone's like anxious that they get it right, that they don't let everyone else down. And that felt familiar to me because I spent so many years doing plays like in like Leeds and Bolton and all these random places, so it felt familiar. And then in between each take, when we had to reset and go back, we just kind of like blasted really loud happy music just to try and get back to the beginning in a way.
Do you remember what the song was? I'm always
Do you know what? There was one that we loved that we played a lot, especially when I was trying to like clear the sort of like difficult energy of having to sort of like go to slightly weird places. Was Tampe Impale. I don't know how you say it. I'm not that cool.
I don't even know what you're talking about, so I'm much less cool.
I think they always play at Glastonbury, but I can never quite say their name. Tampe Impale or something. Anyway, the song is called The Moment, and it's like the happiest song. And so often like we would just dance. Yeah, you'll love it. You could we just like blast it on a big speaker while everyone was like resetting the props and stuff, and that cleared the you know, the slightly I don't know, painful energy in a way.
And there's so many details about that scene that blow me away. I spoke to you about the nature of the prosthetic being lower. So many times when women are about to give birth, they still show the prosthetic quite high, and you actually drop. And so I thank you for that. And I know that was something that you guys intentionally did, right?
Yeah, I thought your bump in Junebug was amazing as well. It felt so heavy. Do you know what I mean? It didn't feel like foam.
Yeah, I think it was foam though. Yeah, Was
it?
Yeah.
Like you embodied it, you know, on the sofa when you're. I know. I actually want to ask you, but you know, when you're painting her nails, I love that scene so much. And you're like sitting there with your feet up and your toes are wriggling, and it's like so heavy, and like it's literally so real. Because that's the other thing. Like I think when I read the script and I was on page 5, I was like, oh my God, this is still going on. And the more I read it, the more I realized like my eyes had never seen that in a script before in black and white, you know. And I thought like, that's so weird, because we see death all the time. We see like the goriest of deaths. We see like the most heroic deaths. We see, you know, every different kind of death we've always seen on screen. And yet birth is as universal as death is. And that's the thing that unites us all. And it seems so, it was like such a strange thing to read, even to attempt in a way. Felt like, you know, that's why obviously we need more female writers to be able to like have the authority to write like an actual birthing experience.
I was surprised after seeing the movie to read that you did not have a child, because I was certain, given the authenticity and the way that you capture I hate to use the word brutality, but it's a very unattractive process. And not to say that you looked at
No, I looked awful, and I was burping the whole time. I didn't think about that until after.
I loved the burping. So many moments, and I know I can go on and on about it, but to congratulate you on that, and to thank you for capturing it in such an authentic way. And it's an interesting thing. I mean, why do you think that we don't show that more? I mean, why do you suppose?
I don't know. I wonder whether, like, because it's so interesting you said like the brutality of it, because I guess as someone that hasn't ever, like, I was actually quite shocked at myself that I truly didn't know what birth or labor was like. And I thought, oh my God, if I hadn't gone through this film, like now I hope to have kids one day, God knows when that will be. But I hope, like I now feel a bit educated about it. Whereas, oh my God, I would have not known what was happening to me, and I guess like our ancestors probably saw lots of women give birth and it was a really communal thing. And this kind of feels like quite behind curtains. Do you know what I mean? I just know from watching The Woman, I felt like a small child in like complete awe and kind of shock about what was happening to her, because what I saw her do was, like, her mind wasn't in the room. Her mother was there, I was on the other side, some random stranger. At one point she sort of, because I was coming in the middle of her birth, obviously, and sort of I like kept in the corner, and at one point she looked at me and I quite literally didn't know what to do, because I felt like I was just so humbled by her and like felt so in awe of her. I sort of went, like, blew a kiss at her and she was like, okay, thanks. I just felt like total like a loser, which helped me actually, because I guess men must often feel like that. They see their women going through something like so profound and so like powerful and like you said, like brutal in a way, that sort of you almost don't know how to hold space for that in a way. And I definitely felt like that. But I guess what I saw her do was, I guess almost weirdly, it made me think a lot about acting, because that's the thing that we always try and remotely chase, is that moment where we just like, and we've chatted about this, like you just manage to like close off your mind isn't talking to you in a way that makes you self-conscious or to like judge what you're doing, or like we talked about when you try and remember lines, you don't remember them and your mind's like, no, it's not that, it's this, and you come out the moment. But I saw her be like so present. It's a thing that we're constantly trying to chase. She's just so she was just in her experience. She was like surrendered to, she had no painkillers. It was like, I think she had 2 paracetamol. And every wave she was just like allowing it to happen. And that it was a spiritual thing for me, really. So I basically owe everything to her. Well, what was the question, Amy?
I don't remember. My mouth is no. Anyway, well, watching you in this film was really a spiritual thing for me. I think you're exceptional and so special, and the way that you, again, I'll say it again, the attention to detail, the thoughtfulness in the moments, it feels so real, and I was able to identify so much with what you were. You just take the audience in with you. So thank you so much for giving us that point of view. The film premiered at Venice, correct? And was that the first time that you saw it with an audience, or had you seen it with audiences before that?
No, because it was sort of mid-pandemic in a way. I mean, the fact that Venice even happened was like so surreal, actually. Like even on the plane, I remember just thinking, I'm sure it's going to be cancelled by the time I land, and it wasn't. And so sitting with a group of people in a cinema again was like a very I guess actually spiritual experience. It's like, this is what we all love, like more than anything, we love sitting in a group of people and sort of witnessing something together. It was quite strange, actually. Parts of it were weird. I guess like the birth, I was so, for the first time in my life, like truly unaware of the camera, that it was quite strange to watch in a way, because in the moment I wasn't really aware of where Ben, who was holding the camera, was, or where anyone else was, or so it was quite one of the more surreal experiences to watch yourself, I think.
Yeah, I imagine it was electric inside of a theater with an audience to watch you embody that moment.
There was a lot of squirming, I remember, particularly from men. There was a lot of like shuffling and like crossing legs and stuff. I thought, oh, sorry.
Well, again, congratulations. And I'm a huge admirer of your work, and I know that I will continue to be. So I'm going over my questions, which I can't read because I don't have my glasses on, so forgive me. All right. Oh, I had another question here. So when I see dialogue, you guys have the whole cast had such a beautiful naturalistic way of approaching the dialogue, which I have a lot of admiration for. Did you guys do a lot of improv in those moments, or were you allowed to sort of move fluidly through the dialogue, or was that something that was pretty set?
Yeah, we had a lot of permission to sort of see what happened in the moment. I think in part because Kornél the director, and Kata, who's his wife, who was the writer, Kornél was the director. And in fact, they share an experience together of losing a child. So that's sort of where it came from. Yeah. But because they're Hungarian, there was like, we had to often sort of, I guess, translate sensibility, because it's really interesting because like, for example, there were some jokes in it that were like very Eastern European, you know, and when you say them in an American accent, it doesn't have the same, I don't know what the word is, like they were sort of drier in Hungarian and maybe a bit cheesier in American. Oh, sorry, drier, yeah. So we had to sort of like, we had that whole process of being like, okay, let's try this or whatever. So for example, in the birth scene, I mean, Sean has a joke about broccoli, and weirdly, embarrassingly, broccoli is my favorite food. I just always loved it since I was tiny. And so in the moment of that take, he happened to make up a joke about broccoli, which is remarkable. And it genuinely made me laugh. So it was like a lot of moments like that in a way that sort of came out. And even things that were continually evolving, like a friend of mine had 3 miscarriages, and she was so amazing and sharing her story with me and hadn't really to anybody. So I felt like so honored that she did. But she has a really high flying job, you know, she's like a presenter, and she lives in New York. She had to go into after her 3rd miscarriage, she had to go in the next day and do this big presentation and then be on camera. And she said, I was wearing nappies like for months and no one ever knew. And I was sitting next to my boss and I couldn't really feel like I could tell her what happened, but I was in this nappy and I had to go to the staff loo and pull it down. And so I basically started wearing nappies for the whole shoot because I just wanted to feel in my body how, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I think we. Okay, you're back. You froze for a second. So.
Oh, did I?
Sorry. Yeah.
just going on about nappies, basically.
Sorry to laugh. We call them diapers in America.
So yes, sorry, diapers. Yeah.
No, yeah. But every time you say it, I giggle, and I don't know why. So forgive me. Yeah, I mean, there are there's so many details. Did you find that having the director and the writer have that experience? Was that something? Did you find? Was there an extra pressure? Did you just find that to be very helpful, and then sort of from a research point of view to have her have that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what happened was we were sort of all quite way into rehearsals, and then I could feel Kata, the writer, I could feel her energy around it, and I could feel that there was something there, you know, you can sense, like, you know, you can pick up people's energy. And I thought, oh, is the signal all right?
Yes.
It's really dodgy here sometimes. Anyway, and we went out for lunch, and I actually asked the question. She ended up saying, I didn't want to say because I didn't want to put pressure, but actually Kornél and I have lost a baby, you know. And I was oddly unsurprised by it because I felt like something that comes so from sort of inside of her, you know, that's so kind of searing in a way. I thought it must have been, you know. And actually I felt a relief because I just thought, okay, good. Like I would often go to her behind a monitor, and you know, the one thing, like I said, that many women I spent time with, particularly one of them, I just wanted to know the sensation of how she felt, like what it felt like in the morning, what it felt like. All the questions I asked, I could intellectualize, but I knew all I had to do was, just try and understand how she felt, so that I could just try and feel it in those days of shooting, no matter what Martha was going about doing, whether she was buying an apple or, you know, walking through her office or whatever. And so in a way, having that be Kata's experience was I'm safer in a way. I'm safer with her, it being a part of her truth, really.
Yeah, I think maybe I'm sure that helps in why it feels so authentic and so so pure in a way, and capturing the isolation of that particular grief, because we don't mourn as a society. It's we don't mourn that in the same way, or celebrate it in the same way. And so I wanted, yeah. But this film does, and so thank you for doing it and being a voice for all of those women who have been through this, and just being you. You're awesome. You know, I adore you.
I adore you too.
So proper right now.
Like, I know, so proper. So I've got a glass of wine. Feels like we're having a Saturday night drink with everyone.
This is lemon water, but cheers.
I'm jumping in now to say thank you very much for sharing that conversation with us, Vanessa and Amy. It was really wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you, viewers, for taking time, giving us time on your Saturday to watch this. If you joined late and you haven't had a chance to see the film, it's available on Netflix. Thank you, everyone, for a really interesting experience.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. Bye.
Love you.
Mwah.